Yes.
Usman was the third Caliph according to the Sunni faith. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who had expelled Marwan, he was expelled from the city. When it was Usman's turn to be Khalifa, he brought him back and married his daughter to him, despite the Prophet's order to never allow him to return to the city of Medina. Meaning Marwan became his son-in-law. And then when Usman died I heard, but did not read it. Now I have heard that where Usman was buried, his grave is in the Christian cemetery.
No, he was buried in the Jewish cemetery?
Then later they buried him in Baqi.
When Usman was killed, there was a time of rebellion. The entirety of Muslims had turned against him. Opponents of Usman had seized the palace of Medina, and the relatives of Usman, the Umayyads, were quite weak. Meaning all those people were against Usman, and only the people of his tribe were with him. And his tribe was very weak at that time. So after the rebellion killed Usman, they then threw Usman's corpse where the garbage was. His corpse stayed there for 3 days. And then after the 3 days, under the darkness of night, his relatives took him to what's called Hush Osha, a Jewish cemetery, and buried him there. Then when the government came to Muawiyah, he reinstated Marwan, who was exiled by the Prophet Muhammad. Muawiyah made him the governor of Medina, because Usman was already buried in the cemetery of the Jews. So what these people did was to expand Baqi and annex it to the Jewish cemetery, to ensure his grave falls into Baqi. So in this way they merged both the cemeteries. Let me show you that narration about the incident about Usman you asked. This book is Majma' Ozawa ID. This book was published in the year 1994, taking you to page 112. In this book, page number 112 here, it is page number 112, the number of the hadith is 14558. This is the hadith narrated by Anas.
قتل عثمان فأقام مطروحا على كناسة بني فلان ثلاثة.
According to the opposition sect's view, in their narrations, all of the narrators are trustworthy in narration. Usman was killed, and his body was thrown into so-and-so neighborhood. The corpse was left at the garbage dump for 3 days.
وأتاه 12 رجل منهم جدي مالك بن أبي عامر وحيتب بن عبد العزى وحكيم بن حزام وعبد الله بن الزبير وعائشة بنت عثمان معهم مصباح في حق فحملوه على باب.
The corpse was left in the garbage dump for 3 days. Then under the darkness of night, using candles and torches, the supporters that were previously listed, they took him and buried him in Hushkokab. So that is where they buried him, not in a Muslim graveyard. And you can find more details with more information in many other books, such as Tabqat ibn Sa'd.
I have another question for you, sir, if that is okay with you. So I got into a disagreement over something. I mentioned to a person I was speaking to, I mentioned to him that when Imam Hassan's body was taken to be buried, it was brought back home, and it was riddled with arrows. I told him that it was Aisha who started that. He became nasty with me, and he went ballistic.
According to our books, our narrations in the Shia books, we have the narrations that Aisha had made the order to shoot the arrows. In the opposition's view, in their narrations they say it was Marwan that ordered the arrows. Marwan was the governor again. As I had stated in our books, we have Aisha was involved in that.
Thank you. My last question is about mandatory prayers. We have mandatory, and there are some highly recommended prayers, like in the morning. So it is enough to only perform the mandatory prayers, or do we need to add the highly recommended prayers?
Well, the mandatory prayers are the ones that are mandatory, but there's some highly recommended that one should not try to miss. Some have very high rewards. Some have very high rewards. It's fine to only perform the obligatory ones, but there are certain prayers, like the 4 units, after the Maghrib prayers that are emphasized and should not be omitted.
Thank you, sir.
May Allah bless you and give you a high reward. Thank you very much.
روز عاشورا هر روز روز عاشورا هر روز بانگ واویلا قولم از بلا پر شد خاکت کربلا پر شد الله الله